Welcome back to the original Yappy Hour. I am your host, Meredith Mills-Merritt. Today I have with me Oset Babür-Winter. Oset is a New York-based writer and editor and the founder of Prix Fixe, the first gifting suite designed to connect the best brands across food, beverage, and home with hospitality tastemakers. She was most recently the senior drinks editor at Food & Wine and regularly contributes to New York Magazine, Bon Appétit, and the Wine Enthusiast. I am so fortunate to have met Oset at a brand event we did for the original South Side in New York City. She's one of those people who doesn't just follow culture, she shapes it. Her taste is very trusted, very specific, and honestly intimidating in the best way. So after all of that, welcome.
Thanks so much. That's very nice of you. It's great to be here.
Of course. So are you ready to get started with your beverage of the week?
Yes, I have my matcha latte.
Tell me about your perfect matcha latte. What is your order? What are we
You
drinking?
know, I will say I have a coffee in the morning and I'll do a matcha in the afternoon. It's like 4 p.m. in New York. So like this is usually a matcha hour for me just
Yeah.
because if I have coffee this late, it's gonna kind of mess me up for the rest of my day. But I have like a pretty solid matcha setup at home. Like I have a bowl, I have a sifter, I have a whisk, I have like kind of the basics, and I'll whisk a regular bowl of matcha and I'll add some steamed milk with my espresso maker, and kind of call it a day. Sometimes I'll add like a little bit of cinnamon, but yeah, matcha is definitely like an afternoon drink for me because it's lower calf than coffee, but still gives me something.
I am in the same boat, and funny enough, we've had a few other guests on this show pick a matcha latte, and it has just made me go down an even deeper rabbit hole. Like, why do we digest this better? Why do we metabolize it better than coffee? Because I'm the same way. I would never dream of having a coffee afternoon. It's 1 o'clock
Yeah.
Pacific. So again, we'd both be staying up until midnight, and we
Oh
can't,
yeah, for sure.
that's not what we're gonna do anymore. But anyway, so when did you kind of start this ritual of having the matchas in the afternoon? Is this more of like a comfort choice? You just kind of gravitate towards this when you need a little
Yeah.
pick me up, or yeah.
I think it's something where I cover tea and coffee a lot for work. I've been fortunate enough to get sent a lot of really great ceremonial matchas and just kind of have like a good stock of it at home. So part of it's just been that, if you have like a great version of something available to you, you're more likely to make it. But it's something that I've kind of been doing more regularly over the past year or so, just because of how many different producers I've gotten to try matchas from through that.
All right. So we'll move into part one, which we call your original story. So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Wow, big question. Yeah, so I started my career mostly in editorial. Well, I'll back up for a sec. When I graduated in 2015, and my first job out of college was in financial services, like it had nothing to do with editorial. They recruited at the college I went to, and it just made sense, and it was a first job. And then I sort of basically found my footing in editorial through working at a Democratic super PAC during the 2016 election cycle. So I was working on copywriting fundraising emails for Democratic campaigns kind of up and down the ticket. And then during that time, I started sort of dipping my toes into the freelance world editorially, mostly in food and bev. And I was living in Boston at the time. So I was living in Cambridge rather. And, it's a smaller market than New York City or LA. So it was easier to, pitch these stories about local restaurants and get them picked up. It was also a very different time for media. It was like 2016, 2017. So I started doing that, and one of the outlets that I was freelancing for was Food and Wine, and I ended up taking a role on staff there as their associate restaurant editor. So basically like that freelance relationship turned into something full time, which, is not something that really happens so much anymore. So it's tough when people kind of ask me about getting into media because that landscape is just so dramatically different now. But for me, that is actually how it worked out. And then I was at Food and Wine for a little over 6 years and went freelance last September.
And with this has obviously exposed you to like the wild west of food and beverage and hospitality. And so taking all of that information from your editorial and media background, what encouraged you to take the leap from that to starting Prix Fixe?
Yeah, being an editor on staff gave me an opportunity to talk to a lot of founders about what they were building. My last role at Food and Wine was as the senior drinks editor, so I was overseeing all of the drinks sections, especially for digital. So everything from coffee and tea to wine and spirits, like the whole run of show for drinks. And I really liked getting to chat with founders about kind of how they were looking to get their product in front of more people, taste testing, etc. For me, Prix Fixe was an opportunity to curate products in a way that was drawing from the integrity of editorial, but in a slightly more targeted way than some of the gifting and sampling that I was seeing done. Like, obviously, as a brand founder, that like every bit of product matters, and like mass sending out these mailers and kind of like pitching a broad swath of people, it can be tough for that message to actually get through. So Prix Fixe was me basically talking to founders about how the existing models weren't really working for them, and I wanted to put together an event series that was something a little bit different, and it's not something that existed. The gifting suite concept has existed forever. There's versions of it in beauty and fashion. There wasn't anything like it in food and beverage. So that was kind of the impetus for that.
It was so thoughtful and high touch that, to your point, when we as a smaller brand try to figure out where this product's going to go, I think some people assume, like, as the brand, when you send product, it's free, which is not true. I would love to introduce everyone to the cost of goods.
I love seeing you post on Instagram when people are like, hey, like, I'm putting together a bachelorette party and would love your product, but you're like, clearly you've never heard of this product, you have no idea. And like, I will say, it is wild. I mean, it was much more of an issue when I was on staff because I had an address that was like public, like it was at the Food and Wine office. But even still, I get mailed a colossal amount of product that I didn't ask for, don't want, and I feel bad about it because I know that it's costing the brand a lot of money, and that is just, it's wasteful on so many different ends. And if it's not alcoholic, honestly, I'll be able to go and like donate it to like a local pantry or kitchen, but I do get sent a lot of booze, for example, and cannabis, etc., and like that's stuff that you can't really donate. I totally think that the current sampling and gifting system is pretty flawed.
Yeah, it is. It's out of control. So I was so excited to have this conversation with you because you have just taken such a thoughtful, beautiful approach. And a lot of the times, again, like sometimes we'll get approached by other concepts, and not only is it extremely cost prohibitive just from the dollar standpoint, but it just doesn't really feel like you can expect the results that you dream of when you're a small brand. And it was the exact opposite experience that Southside's had with Prix Fixe. And so
that's so sweet.
I seriously, I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it. And
no,
you know that.
No, and it's like I have these conversations with founders who are, behind brands that like launched a year ago, and then brands that are like more legacy brands that want to do Prix Fixe, but they have like a newer SKU they're looking to promote. And something that I'm always intrigued by is how surprised people are about the connections part of Prix Fixe, just because I think a lot of people are used to just like, oh, well, we're going to give out products, people are going to like maybe post an Instagram story, and that's it. And that's not worth it to me. Like, I wouldn't ask someone to pay for that, which is why the like intros part of Prix Fixe is so important to me.
Was there or what was the moment where you started to realize my taste is something that people actually really trust and not just something that you're like, I think I have good taste?
I would say that working in editorial, kind of as an editor, you get sent and get the opportunity to try so many different products. And it really does give you the opportunity to see what's great marketing and what's great branding, or maybe just like which founder has like friends in high places versus like which products are really great. And that for most people is cost prohibitive because like who has the budget to go and like buy 1 million ready to drink cocktails and like actually try them all. But when you're an editor on a staff, you get the opportunity to actually try those. And I think that experience and that like privilege kind of made me more confident in my taste level. And that's why, with Prix Fixe, it's not just every brand that can pay the participation fee. It is invite only. Like, it's very flattering when I get brands, who reach out, who want to do Prix Fixe, but it needs to be the right fit. It's not just like any brand. That's why we also do one brand per category per suite. So it's like one ready to drink cocktail, one non-alcoholic wine, because it really is meant to be about the curation. But yeah, I would say that like working in editorial, becoming a, expert in CPG, specifically around food and beverages, is what inspired me with Prix Fixe. And it's also why like I've gotten friends who have been like, oh, like you should do like beauty or clothing in Prix Fixe. And like, I love those things, but I'm not an expert in them. I'm just a gal. So I'm literally just a girl. So like I'll post to my own Instagram about like an under eye concealer that I like or whatever socks, you name it. But I wouldn't presume to be an expert in that space. And I do think that there's like obviously a lot of discussion to be had about who calls themselves like an influencer or an expert in different categories. And it's all kind of chaotic. But for me, it's like exhaustive testing is sort of the key. And it's why like I recently did a story about roll neck sweaters for The Strategist. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to try literally every single sweater I can find on the market. And that kind of exhaustive approach is an editorial approach. It's not just like, oh, well, this is the brand that like sent me free stuff, so I'm going to, post about that. So, yeah.
No, I love that. And I think to your point, if you are a subject matter expert in CPG, specifically food and beverage, you'll find people who, even if you're, the best of the best of the best over there, your advice or preferences on skincare or fashion will not necessarily translate directly. And I think that's where the creator economy hits a huge wrinkle. Not everything.
Everyone's an expert now. I mean, and it has ripple effects. I mean, not to get like too philosophical, but
No,
I think
agree.
it has ripple effects into politics and public health. And like we're in this era of like everybody thinks they know better. And I don't think I know better. I actually think that I fully think that I know what I know, and I am okay with deferring to experts on things that they know. I'm good with that. That being said, like, is it really fun for me to recommend like a sundress that worked for me while I was pregnant? 100%.
Of course.
But also it's important to remember like taste is so subjective. Everybody's experience at a restaurant or trying a product is different. There's so much flexibility there that it's hard to be like, what is the definitive answer?
What do you think shaped your taste and even palate early on between, food, drinks, environments, or even people?
Taste-wise, I guess I've always gravitated more towards things that are pretty traditional and polished. Like I've always really liked menswear inspired clothing, for example. I've liked simple flavors. Even though I consider myself a fairly creative person and someone who works in a creative space, I kind of like a lot of traditional approaches to things, like whether it's like a diner that just has like a really good martini and fries, that's been there forever, that appeals to me versus like the reservation that is impossible to get that you have to like play the Hunger Games for. Like I don't have that in me, but Godspeed to those who do. But yeah, I would say that like, I don't know, like the other day I was thinking about the fact that I've had this one LL Bean barn jacket literally since 2013. LL Bean has been making that barn jacket for decades. And it's emblematic of the kind of style that I gravitate towards, which is just like things that have, endured the test of time. And not that there's not room to like have fun and like innovate, but I do think that that's kind of more towards, that's more where I gravitate towards.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, an LL Bean boat and tote, I tell people, I'm like,
It's an icon for a reason. It's like the J. Crew roll neck is an icon for a reason. I think people have this nostalgia for like these well-made classic things. I think it's like the frustration I feel when I see coffee that has like adaptogens and mushrooms and it. I'm like, why? Why can't this just be coffee? Who asked for this? Did coffee want to do this? Probably not. I am all for paring it down in all ways.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Like a button down and jeans is like my uniform.
It's classic for a reason, and I think that we sometimes lose the plot quite a bit, and all of those things have been around for forever. And my new motto for purchasing quite literally anything is if I can't die in this, I don't want to buy it. So I think
that's valid. Yeah.
Not even just from a sustainability standpoint, but from like this sweater is something that I will wear when I am 70. So.
Yeah. No, I think I totally get it.
Moving into part 2, money, power, decisions. What is the hardest part of what you do?
I think the hardest part of what I do now is saying no is really tough. Being selective with the kind of projects that I take on. I have an editorial and consulting side of the work that I do in addition to Prix Fixe, and so this kind of applies across the board where it's like being choosy about the brands that I partner with for Prix Fixe, being choosy about how I spend my time, if it's taking on an editorial assignment or a brand consulting project, like not getting sucked into a scarcity mindset of like, if I say no now, the opportunity will never come back. That is scary and difficult. And I think it's something that a lot of people who work for themselves contend with. But yeah, I would say that that's like the biggest challenge is trusting the cycle.
Talk to us about the logistics of pulling off the perfect Prix Fixe suite. You know, you do this a couple times a year. That is no small feat. I think
Yeah, it's
it's a lot.
it takes a minute. Yeah, I know. I've had folks ask why I don't do more of them, and it's simply because I don't want to. And I'm
Right.
Yeah, it's simply because I can't and don't want to. Two a year is a lot. The suites take a long time to produce in that building the roster, finding the right brands takes a long time to produce. But then, after we've built out, finalized the menu, which typically happens, we're usually pretty locked in 3-ish months before the event. Obviously, it's finding the right suite space because, it's not, we don't just do them in like conference rooms. They're usually in like cozy hotel room style suites. And then figuring out like, okay, how is every brand going to live in the environment? How are they going to be represented? Like, are the brands going to be happy with the representation? And then also dealing with all of the intros afterwards, because we do something called a diner survey where I ask guests to pick 3 brands from the suite that they'd like an intro to, and then making those connections. Like, I'm the one manually doing those. It's not just like it's like something I automate. It's like physically sending an email between a guest and you being like, hey, like, Sarah tried Southside and like really loved it and would love to chat about bringing it into the minibar at her hotel. And then it's connecting you guys to do that. It's a ton of work from start to finish, for sure.
And that's another thing to bring light to. And one of the key pieces behind this podcast is I think consumers or just individuals who don't have as much knowledge about the space see these things happen, but have absolutely no clue the nitty gritty behind getting it from 0 to 1 and then from 1 to 100, which are 2 very different stages. And what you're pulling off and what you're doing is exhausting, beautiful, but exhausting. And so that's why
making merch, like you guys make some of like my favorite merch in the beverage business. The hoodie that I got at the Southside event that we met at is like my favorite hoodie of all time. It's the best. I wore it this morning. I wear it to drop my child off most mornings. Like, making merch is a lot of work. Running an Instagram account it's just, and if you're not outsourcing these things or if you have a small team, like, it does take a lot, and it just kind of means your brain is like always kind of running in the background. So yeah, there's a ton of different elements that go into it, for sure.
What's a decision that you made, can be creatively, professionally, or even personally, that obviously really paid off, but was super difficult at the time?
I think going freelance was pretty difficult, like legacy media jobs, like full-time staff jobs are few and far in between at this point. Usually when someone leaves a staff at a legacy title, that role is either downgraded in that it's like made more junior, or it's eliminated altogether. And I think that choosing to wade into the world of freelance was pretty daunting. It's something that I thought about for months and months because I have an anxious brain. Like, I mapped out like all of the different things I was going to be working on. So like, I do book co-writing, I do freelance editorial, and then obviously Prix Fixe. And I think I tried to make the path seem as clear as possible before I gave my notice and made the decision to leave, but you can never really know. Like, so much of this industry is really volatile, and like media is a hot mess in its own right. And so I would say that, I'm so glad that I did when I made that choice when I did. I also had a baby in September, and like having my business set up before I had her, in retrospect, is like, I'm so glad that the timing worked out the way it did, because I don't know that I would have the energy to like get everything off the ground now that she's here in the way that I did before. So all of that worked out, which I'm very grateful for.
Have you ever had to choose between what felt right to you? You're like, yeah, this makes sense. Or have you ever had to make the decision of, this is actually the most financially sound, it's not perfect? Because those aren't always the same thing.
Especially at the beginning of my freelance time, last September, I think I definitely took on more assignments than I needed to, and was kind of like, oh, like, I'll take on this like brand copywriting project or a sponsored whatever. And it's funny because, my decision to go freelance was motivated by a lot of things, but one of them was that I wanted more control over what I put my byline on and my name on and like what I spent my time doing, not like writing, SEO centric articles that were like clearly meant to game the algorithm, but like writing stories that I actually felt excited about. I think in the beginning, the like anxiety part of being on my own made me take on a bunch of work that now I am telling myself that I will take on less of that work. To be clear, I have
Good
not
luck.
succeeded. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I haven't succeeded in that, but now at least I feel bad about it. So I think it's like going in the right direction. I don't know. Now at least I like ask for more money. I think working on the brand side and then working in editorial, like dealing, for example, like when you hire a photographer to do commercial work, that rate is very different than their editorial rate. Even learning that, which was something that took time, was like very eye-opening for me because it helped inform the rates that I charge
Right.
for brand work versus editorial work. Like they're wildly different budgets and skill sets, and so I charge accordingly.
As you should. This is the perfect transition to our part 3, which I like to call the messy middle, because no matter who you are, what you do, or where you do it, there's always a mess to clean up or have or, just embrace. So, as you mentioned, you recently had a baby. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Would you say that this has shifted how you think about your time and your energy and what's actually worth your attention?
Oh, so much. I used to like say yes a lot more to events and things like that. And sometimes I am a little sad that I just like have less time to do those things. Like I would say, I was talking to a friend who started out at Food and Wine with me, and like we were reminiscing about how in 2018 or 2019, like we were at 4 brand events a week, going to all the dinners and the drinks and like then maybe a lunch and just so much activity, I guess. And I feel like now if I say yes to something, and this isn't meant to sound like, oh my God, my time is so valuable, like if I say yes, it's a big deal. It's literally just that I know if I'm going to say yes to something and get home at 10 p.m. and be in bed at 11, that means I'm going to have a worse day the next day. And if I am choosing that, it's because I really want to go and do something, because I now know what true exhaustion feels like. I've seen the darkness, Meredith.
I'm
And
sure.
I know that I do not function on less than 8 hours of sleep. Like my husband is much better at that than I am. I do not thrive in that way and I get really cranky. I've also started to be a little less rigid with how I define my workday, just because now when I'm not at work and it's not like during the week, I'm taking care of my child. And so now it's like, well, if the time that I have to like run an errand that I would consider a personal errand is now going to be Tuesday at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m., not 11 p.m., that's no longer off the table, because now my time is just like a lot more fluid and I have to kind of fit in everything around her.
More than fair. And a lot of people in my life are having their first kids. And it's been really wonderful to watch and observe from both a personal and professional standpoint. It doesn't sound to me, the way that this comes across is like, to your point, I know true exhaustion. Like, I know where my time and my efforts are best spent. And I think that's a really beautiful piece of clarity that takes a lot of time to get to.
I have a lot of friends who are either child free by choice or just like aren't there in their lives yet. And I'm super sensitive to being like, oh, I'm really tired because I have a kid, or my time is worth more than yours because I have a kid. Like that is the most annoying thing on earth. And I truly, truly hope that I don't do it to people. And so if I like can't go to something, like it's a me choice, I try not to make it like it's because I have a child and therefore my time is worth more than yours. Like I find that super annoying.
I talk to my husband about this all the time. We don't have any kids yet, but
Yeah.
in the future, women objectively require more sleep than men. There are a number of studies. So
I believe it.
not only are you fist fighting to protect your peace and
Right.
actually get 8 hours or have your aura scream at you in my scenario.
Oh, I see. I don't screw around with things like that because I don't want to know the information, because the information
don't.
will only make me feel worse. I have a lot of friends who have like the tracking rings
Yeah.
and stuff, and I'm just like, you know what? It's kind of like knowing if you're eating something that was on the ground makes you feel worse about eating it. I'd rather just not know.
Absolutely. I think you're
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah.
What is something that used to feel important to you that now just doesn't?
I think being the person who can, I don't know, I still consider myself someone who stays really busy. Like it's not uncommon for friends or like colleagues to be like, your plate seems really, really full. But this is like way less full than it used to be in terms of just like, the number of engagements and like things that I do, like what we were talking about before. So I think like not going to every event or being okay with not being at everything. Also being okay with maybe not being invited to everything. Like it's always like an uncomfortable moment when you're like, oh, this like industry thing or this brand thing, like I wasn't on the guest list or I didn't get the invite. Like that I think is something that, especially when you're earlier in your career, feels like a big assessment of like your value and how important you are in the industry. And now I'm just kind of like, you know what? Like that's okay. There will be like 5 more of this kind of event, and also nobody will be thinking about this in like a week. I say as a person who hosts events for a living, partially. The sentiment is there. I wouldn't want anyone who, wasn't on the Prix Fixe guest list to like tie that to any kind of self-worth. I have so many colleagues who are incredibly good at what they do in the food and bev space, but like they don't touch on the kinds of things that the brands I include in Prix Fixe would, and so they don't come to Prix Fixe, and that's not like it's not meant to mean more than what it is, but I think it can be hard to separate those things in your head, especially from like my own experience.
Yeah, I think it's not a personal slight. When you're in certain phases of your career, things feel so much more permanent and important than they actually are, and when you boil it down, you wouldn't invite your engineering team to a marketing meeting. Like they're
exactly right. And it's like, it's not because you don't think your engineering team is awesome but like, yeah, it's just not the right forum. And also like at the end of the day, whoever's paying for the party or like hosting it is the one that's determining what the goals are. And if that's not aligned, then like, yeah, that's probably why I wasn't on the list. That makes full sense. Like, I think this is something that journalists and like influencers or content creators like find often is like, you'll see a dinner and it's like all content creators. And you're like, cool, the brand's priority was like Instagram.
Yes.
But then you'll see one that's like just like people who contribute to, the kinds of outlets I contribute to. And you're like, okay, great. Like this brand's goal was something totally different. Like it's rare that it's for everybody.
What's something that you used to think was good taste that you've completely changed your mind on?
I used to try to drink the weirdest wine I could find. I think, my husband's going to get a kick out of this because he's like always been more of a conventionally made wine drinker.
Yeah.
Same with my former boss at Food and Wine. Like I think like when I was at the beginning of writing about wine and beverage, I was like, oh my God, like I want the funkiest, weirdest, like most barnyardy wine ever. Like this is so cool. Like, what's great when the label is in calligraphy, whatever. And now I'm just like, you know what? This is a Chardonnay from Oregon. The label could be in Comic Sans. Hopefully not. And it's tough because I love the ethos around natural winemaking. Like I'm friends with a lot of folks in that space. I've moderated discussions about natural wine and like the spirit of it, I'm 100% on board with, and it's not a trend. But I do think that in terms of just like sheer like flavor, like I am no longer going towards like the weirdest orange wine that is on the list. Now if I go to a restaurant and like the somm is like, hey, I can pour you something super funky and out there, or something a little bit more like on the well-trodden path, more often I will pick the well-trodden path option now because I just know that that's like where my palate actually is, even if it's not cool to admit that. Please don't hate me, cool wine people. This is just my thought.
No, but kind of like we talked about mainstays in food and fashion, I think that there are wines that may be perceived as less cool, but there's a reason. They're a mainstay. Yeah. They know what they're doing. Doesn't mean there's no
low-rise jeans. I cannot wear low-rise jeans. I am not interested.
Get that away from me. Get that energy away from me.
Like, or you know what I find the most cursed, which like this is gonna feel kind of punchy, but like those like low-rise jeans that have the drawstring waist.
Oh my God.
You know exactly which ones I'm talking about.
I know exactly which ones you're talking
about. I find them so unappealing and I just don't understand it. Like that to me, like I know I'm supposed to be into that. Unfortunately, I am not into that, and I am tired of pretending.
This is a safe space for yapping, which is why I created this. And it's how I feel about barrel jeans. And I have the added complexity of being 5'11". And
barrel jeans are tough when you're tall. I'm 5'6". I do like a barrel jean mainly because I find them like really like baggy and sweat panty, especially like early postpartum. The Gap barrel jean like saved my ass literally. Yeah, no more low-rise jeans. I am a mid-rise to high-rise girly firmly. I was born in 1993. This is how I feel. There's a Brandy Melville in my neighborhood now, and I love going in there because I just like to see I don't know. I like go and like pick up like random loungewear and stuff there, and I'm sometimes truly intrigued by the silhouettes.
Listen, we like to tease Brandy Melville, but
Yeah.
100% cotton.
That's
I'm
the thing. There are brands selling things that are like nylon blend that are aesthetically pleasing that are like $180 pants. And I'm like, why? To be clear, like no one will ever see me in public wearing a Brandy item because that's like I'm not gonna, I have a child. I know they're like terrible people, to be clear. I know the business is abhorrent, but yeah.
you know,
I
there's
watched the documentary, so.
yeah. What is something that you wish people were more honest about in food, beverage, or hospitality?
Thing that I think would be great to talk about a little bit more is, what informs decisions around coverage for editorial in particular. So, if an editor is including a product in a roundup, is that because that brand is on Skimlinks or like an affiliate network? Because that's something that I'm always shocked at how many founders don't realize, like, if you're not on an affiliate network, a lot of legacy brands literally aren't allowed to include you in their coverage. Like,
Right.
the commerce department will not include you. It's messed up, but it's like the way it is. And so I think like just the factors that influence coverage, because organic, like honest to God media coverage is just so different now than what
So
it was.
rare.
Like I've talked to founders about, oh, like how do we get included in this? And I'm like, it's really a lot less about your product than you think it is. It's
Yeah.
actually a lot more about like all of these other factors. It's about distribution, it's about branding. I can't tell you the number of times that I got pitched things at Food and Wine where like something on the branding was very like it's for women, or it's like wine for women, or it's like branded as like gendered in some way, and like that
Yeah.
to me is like an immediate no.
Yeah.
Or if something is focused on like calorie counting or weight loss, that's an immediate no. Those are things I think that influence coverage a lot more than people realize.
That's why I'm so explicit with people about the fact that I do retain a PR firm, to your point, because don't get me wrong, I'm biased by my own product. I think it's fabulous, but I also spent years in the beauty industry where everything is pay to play. And you and I can't do everything ourselves. And I think no matter how fabulous your product is, there will always be teams of people working for other products to put them forward. So how do you, like, it's truly a natural discussion of how do you compete in this space, especially if it's saturated like alcoholic
But
beverage.
also, like, I think how prominent a founder is or is willing to be. That's why celebrity skincare exists
Yeah.
in a way. It's like, okay, like, it's not that Alex Earl is an expert in, like, skincare. It's that she's Alex Earl, and so people will buy something she sells.
Correct.
And she's willing to be the face of it. But, like, if a founder isn't a personality in that same way, I think for CPG in particular, or if it's like you're doing a podcast, you're like willing to be the face of the brand. I don't know that everybody, I know for a fact that not everyone is willing to do that. And I think that that influences like how prominent the brand ends up being to some extent.
I agree. Moving into our last section, identity, ego, let's face it, we've all got one. This is one I was really excited to hear your answer to, because for me, I can't go into a grocery store and not evaluate every single product that's on the shelf. How has your how has your work changed how you experience restaurants, products, travel, hotels, all of it?
You know, one thing is I'm definitely much more skeptical about recommendations, restaurant recommendations, product recommendations. For example, like I know that there's a handful of restaurant publications or publications that cover restaurants that do not take comps, like will not, the staff is like not allowed to take comped meals. If they are offered a comp, like they have to turn it down, etc. And so I trust those recommendations and the like curated lists from those outlets way more than I would an outlet where I know that like that's not necessarily the case. And that's, to be clear, it's because if an institution isn't allocating budget for editors and staffers, for example, to buy products themselves, test products, or dine out on their own dollar, and that is the institution's responsibility. It's not like that person isn't getting paid enough to pay out of pocket for that stuff.
Right.
That totally influences how seriously, or at least it makes me take that recommendation with a grain of salt. Not to say I like totally wouldn't put any stock in that recommendation, but it is, as someone who knows how the sausage gets made, it definitely influences my my perspective. And I think that that's something that, once you've kind of worked in editorial, it's hard to unsee that.
Absolutely. It's a good transition into my next question, which is, do you feel at all like you can still even enjoy things casually, or are you kind of always analyzing?
No, I think I definitely can. I mean, I've never been a restaurant critic. The curation that I do for Prix Fixe and even the coverage, the editorial coverage that I do, it's always positive. Like if something is not to my taste, and I say not to my taste because I've always found it really, I think jarring is the word I'll go with, when someone just assumes that their taste is like the end all be all. Like
Yes.
I've worked with plenty of people like that, and I'm like, I don't know how you're so confident in your palate or your taste, but I actually think that that is absurd. Everyone's taste is so personal. Like your experience at a restaurant, it's why like people always say if you enjoy like a beautiful bottle of Burgundy in Burgundy, it's not going to taste the same as if you're drinking it in your like tiny apartment in New York City.
Correct.
So contextual. So I very much am, I think, able to still enjoy stuff, and I think that it's just because I look at it through that lens.
It's a very healthy lens. Mine
Thank you.
is
I try.
much less healthy. So
I try. I also think I'm much more aware now of like having covered, restaurants, especially during COVID. I think, more aware than maybe the average diner of how difficult it is to run a restaurant, the margins, a bar or a restaurant, what it looks like for the staff, why tipping isn't like you sticking it to the man. It's like actually someone's like way of making
livelihood. Yeah.
livelihood. Yeah. And so I think that it makes me much more empathetic, I would hope, as a guest in restaurants, because I literally know that, the line between staying open and closing like in 2 weeks is like actually much thinner than in almost any other industry. So I think if anything, it's like it makes me much more like just aware and makes me want to be like a low impact guest in all ways.
what is something that you would say you're very confident in and something that you're still figuring out?
I think I feel pretty confident about my news judgment. And I say that as like, I'm not someone who works in a newsroom, but I get pitched a lot of things over the course of a day. And I think I have a really good sense at this point in my career of what is newsworthy and what isn't. Like, what is something that's worth bringing to my editor at XYZ outlet versus what is like a brand or a publicist who is very well intentioned trying to create a moment or create a sense of urgency. Like, I think having been an assigning editor for so many years for an entire section, know like what is and isn't deserving of coverage, which I think makes me a better writer now on this end of things since I'm no longer assigning. In terms of something that I'm still trying to figure out, I'm always shocked when I find out what brands deem valuable. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm always intrigued. Like, I personally find a ton of value in Substack. Like, to me, a recommendation in a trusted Substack is worth so much more than being on a roundup in a legacy media listicle. And that's just like, that is my personal view. And I think that, a lot of brands still put a lot of weight in old school ways of getting like a press hit, for example. I guess the question I always have is like, what is your goal there? Is it like brand awareness? Is it like actually selling product? And I feel still very like unsure of how brands value different things. It's something I encounter with Prix Fixe, where there's a participation fee associated with Prix Fixe that's significantly lower than attending a trade show or having someone on retainer or having a staffer. But seeing brands like pay for different things that in my view are way less results oriented, I'm kind of like, I don't know that I fully get why that's where you're placing value, but also it's your money and you can totally do what you want with it. But to me, like seeing how that spend is done is always interesting.
Oh, I think that's more than fair. It's crazy when you look at some, even like other comparable startups, like what's valuable and what's not. All right, enough of the hard stuff. We're going to move into our sip or spill segment. We've got our South Sides ready. I always try to do a little bit of like ASMR.
Oh, I already opened mine. I'm sorry, but
No,
I did do that.
I'm pouring mine into a glass. I finally got my hands on some fresh mint plants outside, so very excited. As a reminder, you can either answer these or you can take a sip. So best and
I want
worst.
to take a sip anyway. Can I do that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take a sip anyways.
Great. Yeah.
It's beyond like, it's
Right.
almost 5 o'clock for you, so you're great. Best and worst meal you've had in 2026.
Okay. best meal I've had in 2026. I was in Mexico City a little over a week ago. I went to Contramar. I know this is not a unique thought. It was fantastic. It was very, very good. And you know what? The restaurant that is hyped up is not always very good, but Contramar slaps. The tostadas, very good. The vibes, immaculate. The one thing that shocked me was that like it closes at like 8:30 or 9 p.m., which was surprising, but it's cool. We had churros after from a stand. So that was the best. The worst, it's got to be something I ate in an airport, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair,
Like,
fair.
it's something I ate in an airport that was like way more expensive than it needed to be and also made me feel a little ill afterwards. That's got to be it.
Yeah, no, I actually like feel that in the bottom of my stomach, so
Yeah.
100%.
I get so hungry when I travel and I always tell myself that I'm gonna like pack healthy snacks and then I like find a Sbarro and I'm like this.
Restaurants that actually deserve the praise and hype in New York City, and maybe one that doesn't.
Thai Diner. This is a mug from Thai Diner. I am not on Thai Diner's payroll, but I would
Well, you should
happily.
be.
Yeah, no, I took my daughter there this weekend. They were amazing. We were a little late and they were still very gracious. Thai Diner deserves all the hype. Laveau d'Or deserves all the hype. It's in my neighborhood and I love it. It's like a wonderful old school French meal that absolutely rules. Where else have I been that's like hyped that I think deserves it? Honestly, like Via Carota deserves the hype. The
Yeah.
hospitality isn't always like the warmest and fuzziest, but it's the West Village, so like that's fine. They deal with a lot of crazy people.
Right.
But the food is great. And the vibes are immaculate. So I would say those three, but not worth it. I went to the corner store once. I'm good.
Tea.
Yeah, I'm good. It's okay. But you know what? I will say that it really wasn't anything specific about the food. Like it was fine. I just don't understand like this like lining up hours and hours in
No.
advance kind of thing. And maybe part of that is privilege because I can like find someone who can maybe get me a reservation somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't think any place is worth waiting in line like that for just because Taylor Swift went there. The martini is good though, but otherwise, no.
Unless it's the best martini I've ever had in my life, it's one of those things that I'm like, I'm going to be hard pressed to do
And
it.
you
So
know,
I
it's like a $32 martini, which I continue to just have so many qualms about. Like, I knew I was broken when I was in Boston recently for a work thing, and I went out and I was like, wow, the cocktails are $16. This is so cheap. And I was like, I need to touch grass.
This is the New York and LA and us coming out.
Yeah, it's really bad. And like, again, it's no one's fault. It's everyone's fault. I don't know.
All right. Most overhyped menu item or ingredient?
I do not personally care for uni. It is not my favorite texture or flavor. I also don't think that I think that 98% of things that have truffles don't need truffles.
I could not agree more. And you're never guaranteed a safe truffle experience.
Correct. We're getting there. I would say like caviar is like getting there to like this is too much. Like actually, and I will add another thing. I guess I have a lot of feelings on this one. Savory martinis. I am tired of them. I don't want stunt martinis. There's no
No.
reason. It's like protein and stuff. Like
Yeah.
the martini didn't ask for you to put a cheeseburger in it.
No.
Just make a regular martini. It's okay. And like if I've ever ordered one of those things, it's like fries for the table. Like I'm gonna have a sip, but I'm never gonna finish the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
just for the novelty of it.
I firmly stand by my take, which is there is something slightly masochistic about a martini, and I think you have to kind of hate yourself a little bit. And I think that's okay. Like, we don't need to soften the martini. We don't need to make the
No, my
martini
whole
more
pregnancy, all I wanted was a martini. I was suffering and I was craving more suffering.
legend.
That's where I was mentally. But yeah, no, the stunt teenies have gone too far.
I love that. Stuntini. That's a new term, and we're going to use it. What's the most insane pitch you've ever seen?
Oh my God. No, this is I post some insane pitches in my like group chat. Usually it's like something that's actually from the people who brought you the stunt teeny. Like it's something that is like clearly being manufactured as a press moment.
Right.
It doesn't need to be. I think the other stuff that's egregious is like when there's like a really bad typo. There's one I want to say, but it makes it clear what the brand is, and
Yeah.
that's not fair to that publicist who I'm sure was mortified by it. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you offline. But Yeah, like I think egregious typos, never great. But I would say like in general, the worst pitches I get are like, this is tequila, but for women. This is
Ugh.
wine, but for women. Like trying to contextualize alcohol as gendered is confusing to me because I can just drink any tequila and I'll be okay.
Yeah, like I just so happy. Like, is it because it's pink? Like, that is the
Correct.
most infuriating thing. You're like, it's for girls because it's pink. I'm
Or,
like, kill
and
me.
like, this is something where I know, like, you talk about, and I'm always like, yes, Meredith is like speaking about this correctly, but like, there's a difference between talking about alcoholic beverages that are made thoughtfully with better ingredients and not garbage versus positioning alcohol as like a health product or like a
Correct.
better for you. Because I'm like, all alcohol is by nature bad for you. Like,
Correct.
literally, it's alcohol. Like, let's just level set for a second. It's not a green juice.
Up next, protein in red wine.
That's gonna happen. Like 100% someone's like the David guys are gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go pitch myself off a cliff. Like,
Yeah. Well, I'll be right behind you, so don't worry
yeah.
about that. Well, in closing, we like to keep these questions the same for all of our guests, so I'm excited to hear your answers. The first is give us your current sweet and sour, so think rose and thorn within your personal life.
Ooh, well, Rose is definitely that my daughter is sitting up now, unassisted
Yay.
90% of the time, and sometimes she bonks her head. The thorn is, I guess, when she bonks her head, or it is that my daughter has now taken to grabbing my glasses off my face, and I am almost legally blind, so that's a problem.
Getting older is so cruel
Yeah, I've
that
always had terrible vision. Like this has been an ongoing thing, but now she just likes to like grab at my face, and I'm hoping we move past that soon.
I hope so for your sake too.
Yeah, it's not fun. But yeah, but her sitting up, big rose.
Huge. Who is your dream, living or dead, happy hour guest?
Oh, probably Art Garfunkel.
Obsessed.
Yeah, I really, really love Simon and Garfunkel, but mostly Art. Ever since I was a small child, it's something I've unpacked in therapy.
You can talk about it over drinks. That's for
It's true.
sure.
It's true.
What is your favorite bar snack or cocktail menu hors d'oeuvre?
Fries. I will always order fries. I think that every bar should offer fries. Yeah. Also really like a pigs in a blanket moment, but
Stunning.
fries. Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
calamari, mozzarella sticks of the sea. Also fun.
Do you have like a specific like fry in mind? Crinkle, curly, thin?
Very shoestring.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the right
Shoestring
answer.
is like a great, at the Polo Bar, they give you like a gravy boat of ketchup. I enjoy the gravy boat of ketchup. I also like mayo and mustard. Like I
Yeah.
make Franken sauces and I enjoy that.
Yellow mustard on a crispy fry.
Yeah, I'm a big condiment girl, and I
Yes.
find that fries are a vessel for yeah, it's about the condiment.
Okay, well, when I'm back in New York, we're gonna go do that
We're gonna
together.
go, yeah, perfect.
And then last one for you is finish this sentence. I am happiest when.
I'm happiest when I'm happiest when this is like broken perhaps. I am happiest when I feel like I am productive.
That's not broken.
I no, but like I really want the answer to be like with my family or like, something wholesome, and really it's like I am happiest when I feel like I am producing,
Yeah.
uh writing, creating, I don't know. So yeah, I think when I am productive.
Amazing. Well, Osa, thank you so much for coming on. For those listening, what is the best way for people to follow your work and find you?
I post a fair bit on my Instagram, which is just Babür-Oset. And yeah, I think that would be. And then Prix Fixe also has its own Instagram. It's at its Prix Fixe, but I cross post between those a lot.
Amazing. Well, folks, you heard it here first. Until next week, thanks for yapping.